people into cannon fodder in its trade war with the United States. Entire production chains have collapsed, unemployment is rampant, and cries of despair echo across China. Facing the tariff war, Xi Jinping does not dare to be the first to blink. China's stock market is falling across the board, and the CCP's stubbornness is pushing the nation into peril. High-rise apartment buildings in China are turning into dangerous slums. Built with shoddy, tofu-like quality and rapidly losing value, high-rises are a massive scam. A Chinese blogger warned, "Many will die this year." The post-80s and post-90s generations are vanishing. Welcome to Decoding China, your trusted source for essential insights and timely analysis. The Chinese steel industry faces a global blockade due to overproduction, dumping, and low-quality products, causing hundreds of companies to collapse and 150,000 workers to lose their jobs. I just received a call. The client who was supposed to order 100 tons of steel has canceled. The reason? Vietnam and South Korea have imposed new tariffs specifically targeting the steel industry. It seems this tariff storm is no joke, and the bitter chill in the steel industry is already upon us. The United States' imposition of tariffs as high as 145% is paralyzing China's entire export production chain. Now, with other countries adding further restrictions, Chinese entrepreneurs feel trapped with no way out. Just 10 years ago, Chinese steel was in high demand around the world, but now it has become something everyone is avoiding. Over 20 countries across Asia, Europe, South America, and North America are simultaneously building trade barriers to block the flow of Chinese steel. Chinese steel exports are on the verge of collapse. Due to pressure from local businesses, Vietnam's government began imposing a temporary tariff of up to 28% on Chinese hot-rolled steel starting in February. By April, the tariff on galvanized steel was increased to 37%. The effects were immediate. Chinese steel exports dropped by 28% month-on-month, and the trade value shrank dramatically. In February 2025, South Korea's Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy imposed a temporary anti-dumping tax of up to 38% on Chinese steel plate products, which are mainly used in shipbuilding and construction, affecting major exporters like Baosteel at 28%, Shagang at 30%, and companies like Shandong Steel and Schumann International Trade at 38%. The European Union has also acted swiftly and decisively. On January 13th, 2025, the European Commission imposed temporary anti-dumping duties, ranging from 14.1% to 62.6% on Chinese tinplate and non-alloy steel products. The U.S. has set up an even stronger defense. The Trump administration not only imposed a 25% tariff on imported steel, but also set new standards for North American steel, requiring imported steel products to be melted and poured in North America. This has caused Chinese steel exports to the U.S. to drop to almost zero in certain months. Bloomberg's industry research bluntly states that about 50% of Chinese steel exports are now blocked by trade barriers. In the past, Chinese steel could quietly be labeled as Vietnam-made or Thailand-made to easily bypass tariffs in Europe and the U.S. Now, these countries have seen through the trick and set up nearly impossible to evade origin certification systems, tracking steel products with DNA-level precision. Chinese steel now has no place to hide. At the start of 2024, the steel crisis fully erupted. In January of last year, 75 of the 201 steel production companies in the country, along with 115 blast furnaces, had ceased production. The operating rate for small and medium-sized enterprises dropped to just 75.5% by June. In July, an internal report from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology admitted that the steel industry was facing unprecedented overcapacity. National crude steel capacity had reached 1.26 billion tons, while domestic demand was only about 850 million tons, leaving an excess of over 400 million tons. This excess is equivalent to the total annual production of the second to the 10th largest steel producers in the world, enough to build 300,000 Eiffel Towers or lay steel tracks around the Earth's equator 90 times. In August last year, Dongling Group, the leading steel company in China, announced bankruptcy and restructuring, leaving 18,000 employees without jobs. By September, panic spread throughout the market. The price of Chinese construction steel fell below 3,000 yuan, approximately 412 USD per ton, a 6-year low. In January this year, Jiangsu Delong Nickel Industry Group, the world's second-largest stainless steel producer, declared bankruptcy and restructuring. Meanwhile, 32 steel companies paused production for maintenance, but in reality, they were struggling to survive. From Hebei to Liaoning, steel plant closures became increasingly frequent. Workers' Industry Association statistics showed that since 2024, more than 150,000 workers in the steel industry have been forced to leave their jobs or accept significant salary cuts. By early April, steel prices were still hovering around 2,900 yuan, nearly 500 yuan lower than the same period last year. This two-year-long steel industry crisis, from initial subtle signs to the current full-scale collapse, highlights the severe consequences of China's overcapacity. China's steel prices are shockingly low even by global standards. In the first quarter of 2024, the average export price for China's hot-rolled coils was 480 to 520 US dollars per ton, while the price in Europe was $650 to $700 per ton. And in the US, it reached $750 to $800 per ton, an astonishing price difference of 30 to 40%. This unbelievably low price has caused global steel manufacturers to complain. Behind the price mystery lies a shocking industry secret. China's annual steel production exceeds 1 billion tons, with a value of 8.7 trillion yuan, yet it only generates a profit of 29.1 billion yuan. That means the average profit per ton of steel is less than 30 yuan, not even enough to buy cigarettes. The entire industry's profit margin is only 0.33%, far below the international average of 5 to 8% for steel industries, and even less than a tenth of China's manufacturing industry's average profit margin. In the steel industry, environmental investments account for only 2 to 3% of total costs, while developed countries like the US, Japan, and Europe allocate 7 to 10% for every ton of steel produced. China emits an average of 2.2 tons of CO2 per ton of steel, higher than the global average of 1.9 tons and much higher than the EU's 1.5 tons. This saving on environmental costs directly translates into a price advantage. As China's steel exports are blocked, the global steel trade landscape is undergoing profound changes. Traditional steel powerhouses like Japan, South Korea, and India are reclaiming lost market share. A more important change is the reshaping of trade rules. Over the next decade, global supply chains will be restructured around allies rather than the lowest cost. This isn't about economics, but the inevitable result of geopolitics. The CCP has turned its people into cannon fodder in its trade war with the United States. Entire production chains have collapsed, unemployment is rampant, and cries of despair echo across China. This is the situation now. Hundreds of machines have completely stopped working, no orders, all shut down. I'm on the verge of losing my mind. My university education was a waste, and over a decade of studying was for nothing. What's the point of going to school? What's the point of getting a PhD or a master's degree? I can't even find a job. The CCP, disregarding the suffering of its citizens, persists in waging a trade war with the United States, leading to widespread factory shutdowns, production halts, salary cuts, and layoffs, exacerbating the worsening unemployment crisis. A massive backlog of goods and a sharp drop in overseas orders have forced many companies to suspend operations or reduce working hours. Experts warn that if high tariffs persist, the situation in China will deteriorate further. Meanwhile, the CCP continues to rally for an all-out fight and promotes the spirit of enduring hardship among the people. In reality, however, citizens are being treated as cannon fodder. A blogger shared, "The real situation in Guangzhou might sound unbelievable. Many central enterprises, state-owned enterprises, and public institutions such as a certain group haven't paid salaries for 6 months, and layoffs are happening chaotically. Some employees want to quit, but fear they won't find work elsewhere. If they stay, they go unpaid. Those accustomed to the system struggle to adapt to the fast-paced environment of private companies. Don't be fooled by the gleaming office buildings in Duzhong New Town. Many are empty or filled with shared workspaces. Starbucks and McDonald's are packed with middle-aged people pretending to work, sitting with their laptops for most of the day." One person lamented, "Friends, with the recent US tariffs, factories in Zhejiang are reeling as if hit by an earthquake. Although our factory doesn't engage in foreign trade, our upstream partners who export appliances haven't received orders in ages. Orders have plummeted catastrophically. Now these businesses are turning to the domestic market, creating cutthroat competition, All the machines in the factory workshops are still running, and salespeople have been dispatched to scramble for orders. But the market is limited. 20 people fighting over one bowl of rice. It's utterly brutal. Corporate profits are squeezed to the point of suffocation, competition is fiercer than ever, and prices are so low that no one makes money. Many factories have relocated to Southeast Asia or even farther regions because they can no longer survive here. A worker shared their anguish. Things aren't much better for us workers either. If this continues, we won't even receive our base wages. There's no way out. This month, there hasn't been any overtime. The factory keeps scheduling rotating days off. What are we supposed to do if this persists? In previous years, factory gates were plastered with hiring notices. Now, at night, the gates are tightly shut and hardly any factories are working overtime. It's eerily quiet. Gao Tianyu, author of The Middle Class Must Die, wrote in the Hong Kong Economic Journal that China's exports to the US reached $524.7 billion last year, accounting for about 15% of its total exports, making it the largest export market. Including goods rerouted through third countries to the US market may represent over 20% of China's export value, underscoring its critical importance. 聂惠华